Hey, what is going on, guys? In this video today, we're going to be going over the best linear and exponential sensitivity values and settings for PS4 and Xbox players. On the day I'm uploading this video, legacy sensitivity and settings are only a few hours away from being totally removed from Fortnite. So because of that, I have a feeling a lot of those legacy players are going to be scrambling to find new sensitivity values that they're comfortable with. And since the majority of my audience plays Fortnite on console, I decided it'd be a much better idea to find sensitivity values that work well on 60 FPS instead of just showing what I use when I play controller on PC. Plus, due to the fact that not many people really make sensitivity videos for console players specifically, even if you've always been a legacy or exponential player, you'll still probably find this video helpful. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright, so one last thing I want to mention here is that, again, since legacy players will probably be the ones most seeking out this video, I'm going to briefly explain what each new sensitivity value actually does, because if you've been playing on legacy this entire time, I wouldn't really expect you to know. So hopefully you linear and expo players can bear with me, or you can just skip through the video and only look at the values. I totally understand if you want to do that. Alright, so starting with look sensitivity, for horizontal and vertical speed, this is obviously like your X and Y sensitivity on Legacy. It simply determines how fast your crosshair moves left, right, up, and down anytime you aren't aiming down sights with a weapon. However, what a lot of people don't know is that X and Y sensitivity were actually different speeds with Legacy. Basically, if you had 6X and 6Y sensitivity, your Y sensitivity would actually be faster than your X sensitivity, since every TV/monitor out there is wider than it is taller. That may be a little bit confusing, but it's why myself and most other legacy players would use something like 7X 6.Y sensitivity where the X was a little higher. However, on the new sensitivity values, this is no longer the case. If you use 50% for horizontal and 50% for vertical, it'll be the exact same speed, so you pretty much always want to make sure those values are the same. Then for the turning boosts, those are basically increases in sensitivity after a certain amount of time holding down the stick in any direction. And then the ramp time is the certain amount of time you need to hold your stick before that boost will activate. So for example, let's say I use a horizontal and vertical boost of 20% with a ramp time of 0.2 seconds. That means when I hold down my stick in a given direction, for the first 0.2 seconds, my stick will move at whatever speed my regular sensitivity is, but then after those 2.0 seconds, my sensitivity will increase by 20%. So starting off with linear, we have 40% for both horizontal and vertical speed. Based on a popular sensitivity conversion chart that someone created, 40% is roughly the equivalent of 6.5x and 6 on Legacy, so pretty standard values that shouldn't be too fast for most players, but it also should be fast enough. Then for the horizontal and vertical turning boosts, we have 0% for both. The vast majority of good linear players use 0% for boosts, and I see no real reason to stray away from that. And because you have no turning boost, then the turning boost ramp time really doesn't matter, but I set it to 0 anyway because why not? And then finally, instant boost while building is another setting that doesn't matter since we're using 0% boost. In case you care, basically all that setting does is that if you turn it on, it ignores turning boost ramp time while building, so you'll get that extra sensitivity boost from your boosts right away. Now let's get into look sensitivity for exponential players. The only difference in this category is that you want to have a slightly higher horizontal and vertical speed, so instead of the 40% for linear, we're actually going with 43% for exponential. And we'll get into a little more detail about why you want those values to be slightly higher on exponential in a bit. However, as I alluded to, you still want to have 0% for all the boosts and turning boost ramp time on exponential. And also, since you're using no boosts, instant boost while building, again, doesn't matter, but why not just turn it off? So now we move into the aim down sight sensitivity section, and most of this stuff is fairly similar to the look sensitivity section. ADS sensitivity, as the name suggests, is your sensitivity values whenever you aim down sights with a weapon, and the legacy equivalent to this was targeting sensitivity. The only difference here is that unlike targeting sensitivity on legacy, these ADS values are not multiples of the look sensitivity, they're totally unaffected by those values. What I mean by that is, on legacy, if you use 10x 10y sensitivity and then say 0.2 targeting sensitivity, that would actually be different than if you still use that 0.2 targeting, but this time instead of 1010, you now had 5y. So that means even if you don't copy a player's look values, you can still copy their ADS values and vice versa. So for linear, we have 10% for both horizontal and vertical speed. Hitting shots while ADSing is notoriously hard on linear, so 10% may be a little lower than what most top players use, but it should also make it a bit easier for you to hit AR shots. And much like I described with linear look sensitivity, you also want to have no boosts and no turning boost ramp time in the ADS section as well. For exponential, much like with look, we're going to want to go a tad bit higher with these ADS values than linear. So instead of 10% for both horizontal and vertical, we're instead going to go with 12. But you still want to have 0 for all your boosts, and that's even more important with ADS sensitivity than it is with look sensitivity. ADS aim requires a lot more precision and slow movement, so even the slightest boost could really throw you off. Then we move on to maybe the most important setting for both linear and exponential, look dampening time. This basically determines how much aim acceleration you're going to get while moving your crosshair. Lower values mean less aim acceleration, while higher values mean more. However, one thing that's important to note here is that if you put your look dampening time to 0 with linear, you'll have no aim acceleration at all. However, even if you put it to 0 with exponential, due to the way the input curve works, you're still going to have a little bit of aim acceleration. So for linear, most people will probably tell you to use a 0% look dampening time, and that's probably what I recommend for PC on controller players, but for console, I think you actually want to have a tad bit of aim acceleration since it's slightly harder to control your sensitivity, so I personally recommend a number like 0.03. And it's not like that's a huge difference at all from what the top players use, so I don't think it's a big deal. Then on exponential, the main reason you would want to use this over linear is if you want more of a legacy feel to aiming, then it makes sense that you'd also want to have a slightly higher look dampening time, so that's why this is 0.08. This is definitely less aim acceleration than legacy, which I think is a good thing, but if you like the aim mechanics of legacy, then this will probably feel a lot more comfortable to you than linear with a really low dampening time. And that also explains why you want both your look and ADS sensitivities to be slightly higher on Expo to make up for the extra aim acceleration while aiming. Then we get into dead zones, which will be the same thing for both linear and Expo. For these values, you want to basically go as low as you possibly can without getting stick drift. Maybe if you have a brand new controller, you could go to the 0.05 to 0.08 range, but for most people, I'd say 0.10 for both dead zones is a really nice spot. The final sensitivity values that we need to discuss here are building and editing sensitivity. Most controller PC pros will be around 2.0 for both, but for console players, I'd suggest a little bit lower, so something like 1.8 for both seems perfect. However, if you're a legacy player who's really struggling to edit well without edit mode aim assist, then you may want to use an even lower editing sensitivity. For example, the first few days I switched off legacy, I started with a 1.5 editing sensitivity and then gradually started to move up. And unlike with the aiming sensitivities, since the movements you make while building and editing are so much less precise, I don't really see any problem with using the same building and editing sensitivities no matter if you're on linear or exponential. So now I'll just quickly scroll through the settings that I use on console and then we'll close out this video. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you watched the entire thing, be sure to let me know with a comment down the comment section below. Let me know whether you're a legacy player who watched this video because you need to switch to linear/expo, or if you were already on linear/expo and was thinking about changing your sensitivities. Be sure to leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications, do whatever the heck you want, and I will catch you guys next time.